If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Listeners, I'm excited to share some good news. Podcast Connections is our brand new episode sponsor. If you feel your book deserves more reach but visibility hasn't come easily, podcast guesting can open the right doors. The team at Podcast Connections gets you in front of the audiences who need your message and your expertise. If podcast guesting is something you're interested in, please contact them at podcastconnections.co and tell them you heard about them on the Book Marketing Mentors podcast. And now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is Nancy Linneruth. Nancy helps women break through the subconscious blocks that keep them from earning more money, increasing their visibility, and creating greater ease in their lives and businesses. A Harvard-trained attorney, licensed therapist, and EFT expert, Nancy brings a unique blend of expertise to her work. She's the co-author of Your First Year, What I Wish I'd Known Lessons from Women Entrepreneurs for Women Entrepreneurs, as well as a featured expert in the bestseller, The Science of Getting Rich for Women. These accomplishments have helped countless women transform their lives. Nancy, what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome you to the show, and thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Oh, thank you so much, Susan. It's wonderful to be here.
You've also got your own podcast, or you're on video. You had me as a client, a patient. I don't know. What do you call that? We're turning the tables now. You put me under the spotlight.
Yes, I do a video podcast. I do say client because patient always seems like it's pretty dire what we're doing. And while we do big things, I never think of the people I work with as somehow ailing. They just have something that's in their way. We take care of it. And you can see that on the video podcast.
Excellent. Let's get to the crux of this because we're talking about subconscious blocks. What exactly is a subconscious block and how do we know when we've got one that's holding us back?
Okay, subconscious block is my shorthand for talking about those rules or fears or beliefs that we've internalized that we may not even be aware are there. But they are running the show, basically. It's like a computer program that's running in the background and you don't realize what it's doing, but it's affecting how you show up in the world. You may not be aware of it on a conscious level, but if you try to do something that you should be able to do, I mean, let's say it's sit down and write for the next half an hour, and you sit down and you just can't do it, or you can't even bring yourself to sit down, well, that would be a sign that there is something in your subconscious that is preventing you from doing this.
Now, is this a lack of a skill, or is it a discipline? Is it something deeper that's at work here?
Actually, it is something that you've internalized, usually in childhood, some sort of rule to live by that kept you safe back then. Let's say if you were bullied, for example, in elementary school, you might, as a smart little kid, say, okay, if they don't notice me, I'll be safe. And so you tell yourself, well, it's not safe to be seen. Okay, that worked in elementary school, I mean, as well as it did, and it made sense for you at that time, but now you've internalized it, so it's still playing even as you grow up and you get away from those kids and you know that you're safe, but you still have this rule, it's not safe to be seen. Well, then it comes time to get your book out or go arrange for it to go on tour, or you reach out to an agent and that lesson, that belief gets triggered. It's not safe to be seen. And so for whatever reason, you're not doing that, but you don't realize it goes back to that experience way back in, I don't know, 4th grade.
Yeah. As you were saying that, it went through my mind that growing up, believe it or not, as an author, I was actually not very good at writing. And my father thought that it would be really good to have me just write every weekend a little essay. This was like torture for me,
Oh.
absolute torture. And then, of course, once I'd done it, he'd go through it. And if it wasn't correct, he'd mark the grammatical mistakes and spelling errors, etc. And then I'd have to rewrite it. And if I didn't do it well the second time around, we'd have a third rewrite. You can imagine the thought of writing
Wow.
became a subconscious block.
Yes. How did you get over that? I'm very interested. Most people, having had that experience, would have said, okay, I'm not a good writer. I'm not going to try to write. But you did it. How did you do it?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I had to do some mind work and knowing that, yeah, this was then, and he was doing this to help me.
Yes.
Even though at the time I did not believe that.
Yeah.
I thought this was the worst punishment ever, especially as my bedroom looked out onto a park that all I wanted to do was go and play in that park.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting because that's how it works when you internalize something when you're young. You're using the logic and rationality and ways of thinking that you have then, and you can get older and know that that's no longer true, that, oh no, really what was going on was he loved me, he wanted things to go better for me, and yet it can still feel the way it did back then until you change that. So somehow you did the work.
It took many years.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's why I go for the tapping, because EFT works much faster than anything else I've ever found and seems to work more effectively. It goes deeper somehow.
Yeah, and I've done tapping and you and I've worked a little bit together, so it's a great tool. Let's talk about some of the common subconscious blocks that you see in authors and writers.
Yes. Well, what'll happen is they'll come talk to me about like, I'm just not sitting down and writing. I make plans to do it and then I don't do the laundry. Or they'll say, I got so far and then I just shut down. I couldn't think about it. So it'll come up in different ways. And when we go looking, it can come from different kinds of blocks. So a common one will be something about, well, if I get my book out, I'll be criticized or they'll make fun of me or I'll somehow be attacked in the media or something like that. That's a very common one. Another common one is feeling like, I'm just not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve to do this. No one's going to see me as the expert if they're doing a nonfiction book. And that can often show up as them saying, well, who am I to write a book, right? Or who am I to get this book out there in a big way? And then a third way to look at it is that it's neither of those. What really is what they're planning to do when the book comes out. If they're going to go out and use that as a basis for a speaking career. And some part of them is saying, oh, it's not safe to be up on stage. I can't get my voice heard or something like that. Or the success that they are hoping that will come from getting the book out there might have its own repercussions. Like, well, if I'm more successful, I'll be overwhelmed. I'll make too much money. I will outgrow my family or friends or something like that. So there's different places to look for what is getting in the way of that goal of getting that book out there or getting the agent or whatever it is that the next step in their writing journey is.
This is like a checklist. I've just been checking off each one of those because I know that I've had each one of them, from the imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, feeling fearful of being criticized or judged, or that fear of success. Oh, my goodness, I think you're talking about me. But yes, I learned that got to get over them. I mean, don't want to get those sort of standing in my way. So how do you help authors do that?
There are all sorts of ways one can work through that kind of a block that I'm describing here. And as I was saying, EFT seems to be the fastest and the most effective one. what I will do with someone is figure out what is that underlying rule. And you did this with me, Susan. Like, I'll have you say a few different ways of a block might show up. Like, it's not safe to be seen. I'll be attacked if I get my book out, something like that. And then rate it for how powerful it feels, not how true it is. Usually by the time we get to this stage in our lives, we know it's not true, but it still has power. It's emotional. Often there's some fear involved in it. And so we'll feel that emotion come up or a physical reaction, and we'll know that it has some oomph to it. And then I will take my client through some tapping on that specific block. There's plenty of ways to tap out there, and you can simply tap on, well, I'm procrastinating. I'm not writing my book. I'm not doing it. I don't know why, but I'm just not doing it. That's probably not going to get you there very fast. But if you find out what that rule is, oh, if I get my book out, I'll be overwhelmed. Okay, now we can tap on that. And by tapping, what you're doing is, in effect, you're opening up your subconscious. You're calming down your nervous system so it can actually take a look at the rule that you've been living by and see whether it really makes sense logically, rationally, from your current now wisdom and knowledge. And that way, with the tapping, you can change the rule. You can know it consciously, but if you don't do something that's going to get to your subconscious to change it, for me, that's the tapping. If you just simply remind yourself logically, well, sometimes that's enough to get by, but you're always going to be pushing against that subconscious. And that takes energy. If you change the programming in your subconscious, then you don't have to push so hard. You can just get out there and write or whatever it is. And it will be like that old rule no longer exists for you.
So I'm just going to take you back a few steps because I don't want to assume that our listeners know exactly what EFT is or what tapping is. Maybe you can give us just a little brief description, explanation of what those two are.
Absolutely. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. It is a process of where you're tapping on acupressure points. So these are some of the same points that are used in acupuncture, but we're not doing the needle part of it. My client will watch me on Zoom and they will follow along as I tap on the side of my hand and on certain points on my face with a couple fingers. And so EFT tapping, it's pretty much the same thing. There are different kinds of tapping out there, but the way I use it is the EFT with the 9 points that follows through on. And what tapping does, when you're tapping on these acupressure points, Western science shows that you're sending a message of safety and calm, in effect, to your amygdala, the mid part of your brain, where the fight, flight, or freeze response gets triggered. Basically, well, if I can use the technical terms, you're downregulating your amygdala. And that does things like lower your cortisol levels really fast. Cortisol is the stress hormone. So you're lowering your stress. And that is used for all sorts of things. I use it specifically for these subconscious blocks because that allows me to help a person release them and then figure out what they want to do and put into their subconscious with like an affirmation.
Excellent. I know that, many authors come to me and they've written the book, they've got it, but getting it out there, marketing it, promoting themselves, speaking about their work, or even becoming visible, these are some of the blocks that they start having. And I don't even think they realize what they are and why they're there. So if somebody came to you with that, how would you work with them?
Well, I would have them, first of all, just speak to me about what was going on. And in the process of them talking about it, sometimes they'll just tell me exactly what the block is. They won't realize it, but they'll say something like, yes, I've always had a challenge of standing up in front of people, and I can talk one-on-one with people, no problem, but it's when it's a group. And so then I'll say, okay, where did that start? Well, we might follow it back. Maybe they did a book report in 4th grade and they got laughed at. Right there, that would be a place to go to. It might be that I'm listening to them and I'm thinking, it seems to me like what they're saying is if they speak up, then they're going to be laughed at. I'll ask them to test that. So it is a process that's halfway between art and skill, I think, where I'm simply asking them what's going on and I'm pulling out possible blocks, and then we can rate them and go with the one that really is the most powerful. And most of the rest of them will follow in behind once we release that most powerful one.
And then once you've released it, I mean, how long does this last?
I used to say it lasts forever. And in a way it does, because we've taken care of that block. If we can get it down to 0 and it's gone, it's not coming back just for the same issue. What sometimes happens, though, is somebody will say, great, I can go out and speak now. And they'll go out and they'll get onto regional stages and they'll be doing great. And then they get an offer for an even bigger stage, a national conference, and they will freak out. It's like, what happened? It came back. Well, it did in a way, but in a way it didn't. You dealt with the one at the level you were at. But then if you want to go bigger, sometimes there's a new devil up there that you have to deal with.
And how long does this process take?
It does depend. If you've got a single block that doesn't go back so very far, sometimes it'll be gone within a session, 20-minute love seat, an hour session, something like that. There's even the tales of the 1-minute wonders where we tapped on something, one single round of it, and a minute later, it's gone. And that does happen. But there's also blocks that are made up of multiple issues, or issues that are made up of multiple blocks that work together. And so you can take care of one of those blocks, but then you have to go back in and take care of the next one. So example that might work with the speaking would be you have that fear from the 4th grade book report. So we deal with that. But now you have a rule that you internalized when a parent said, you're supposed to be seen and not heard. Okay, now you've internalized that one. We got to get rid of that one. And there might be multiple blocks like that. But as we take care of each one, it becomes easier and easier for you to move forward. And then when they're all gone, it's just like, okay, this is what I do. I get out and speak.
Obviously, working with a therapist like yourself, however, is this something that we could do on our own? Is this something that, you give us homework to do?
I'm going to catch you there. I'm not a therapist. I mean, I technically I am a therapist, but I don't do therapy work with my coaching clients. And you can, of course, do this on your own. Tapping is one of the easiest things to learn. You go and find a tapping video on YouTube, and they'll show you the tapping points, and you can go from there. The issue is, will you be able to uncover your own blocks and release them with the tapping? And that can be hard to do. It's hard to see the forest for the trees when you're in it. It's like, oh, this is just who I am, is sometimes how it feels like. I'm just not good at speaking, or I'm just not a good writer, or I'm lazy, or it's an identity thing that you're trying to make sense of the fact that you're not acting in the way you want to be acting, without realizing, oh, this goes back to when I was 7 years old and mom said that. That's where it becomes helpful to have someone, an outside person, come in and help. But absolutely, go ahead and tap. I know people who tap every day so that they will do better and better and better. And they're just tapping with whatever comes up for them. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you need the expert.
Yeah, well, to guide them. And because, as you rightly say, sometimes you can't uncover, you're too close to something that you don't even think that this went back to 5th grade, 4th grade when you were laughed at. I mean, that's not top of mind necessarily.
Absolutely. I'm trying not to say this anymore because I'm sort of giving myself a block here, but we used to say things like, yeah, we could tap for everybody else, and then we don't do it for ourselves. We don't think about it. I'm getting over that, but it is a truth. Like, people who want to tap and change things will just often forget to do it. So for me, I've got someone I go to once a week and we exchange tapping. And that forces me to take the actions because it is so easy, especially when it's in your subconscious. It's just so easy to say, oh, I've got other things to do. I'll just do those other things. But if you've got a book you want to finish, or if you want to get out on the stage, that's not going to get you there. So you either get your commitment to making that change and tapping every day yourself, or you find somebody who can guide you along with that journey.
Yeah. And I think there's a disbelief sometimes that it goes back to these stories because they are stories. I mean, they did happen to us maybe but there's an interpretation that we've given that incident, that event that happened that, as you say, is going on in our mind, in our subconscious, that we don't even realize. So I like the fact that having somebody else to do this with, because you're right. I mean, remembering to do these practices by yourself, if it isn't sort of almost like life-threatening, you're like, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you don't do it.
Absolutely. Yes. And I'm so guilty of that.
Oh, I think we all are. I mean, it's just part of who we are. And there's just so much else going on around us, remembering to do this is just one of those things. Is it a top priority? Maybe not.
Yes.
So working with somebody else, I can definitely see the value of doing that. What else do you feel would it be important for our listeners to know about this whole process? I mean, if they're even fearful of, even starting or trying this.
Working with EFT or tapping, there are ways to do it that are extremely gentle. So if somebody is afraid, you mentioned if they're fearful of it, afraid of what they might uncover, particularly with a guide who knows what they're doing, you can be very gentle with releasing anything around a specific memory, for example. I don't always work with specific memories. That's a very typical way to do EFT, but I find that for many of the women I'm working with, they want to just get there fast and get a decent result without having to go on in and clearing out everything from when they were 3 years old. And I respect that. But if there was a specific memory that was particularly traumatic, then you can be very gentle with it. And the tapping, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't make bad things happen. It doesn't make you stupid either. Like if someone has a fear of snakes and we tap and release that phobia, it's not going to make them go pick up a rattlesnake. It just doesn't work that way. So it's one of the most effective and safest ways to work on stuff like this. So if that's the concern, oh, I don't know what I'm going to dig up from my past, I don't want to go there. Well, that's a time to go with somebody who knows how to help you make some distance between that and then release it in a gentle, easy way.
I also know people who've had traumatic childhood experiences and they've blocked it from their memory.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work with somebody who has completely blocked something from the past?
Recovered memories is a whole different area and had a very troubled experience back a few decades ago. I don't try to recover memories. However, sometimes what I'll do, a great technique to use is to have somebody just make up a story about what happened. Oh, yes, well, I can't speak from strangers because what happened was, and I'll have them make it up. And I will take whatever they tell me as truth. It maybe wasn't real. It maybe didn't really happen that they got laughed at in fourth grade, say, if that was the example. But if they tell me the story that happened and we tap on that story, then whatever truth is underlying it is going to be calmed and soothed and taken care of with the tapping. Does that make sense? Did I say that in English?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay. Sometimes things will come from out of left field. This isn't exactly what you asked, but I've been thinking about this one woman I worked with who was wanting to finish her book. And she came to me because she got 7/8 done and she could not finish it. She was just stuck. When we went looking, the first thing she told me is, well, this is my springboard to go do an international tour with the book, give trainings all over the world. Okay, that's great. And so we were tapping and I was asking her, well, let's say you finish the book and you're up on stage. What's coming up for you? And she instantly flashed to a story of, oh, this is from a past life. I was up on stage and the people rushed me and I was lynched, basically. I'm like, whoa, that was a surprise. And she said, that explains why I don't want to finish the book, because I'm not going to then go out on stage. It's keeping her safe, right? So we tapped on that past life. And for my purposes, sure, it could have been a past life. It could have been a story. I don't know which it was. It didn't matter because there was a truth in there that needed to be addressed. And we did that with the tapping. And then once she was able to oh, okay, I'm not living in the Middle Ages or whenever that past life was. And this story is not going to lead to people attacking me on stage. Okay, I'm safe. I can finish the book. It's interesting the way these stories weave their way into the work that I do.
Oh, that's such a powerful story. Wow. And now she's a celebrity all over the world, I'm assuming.
She only worked with me one time and I didn't follow up. I should do that. What happened?
Well, this could be a success story. Yes, you need that. Nancy, this is a great opportunity, segue for you to tell our listeners how they can find out more about you and the incredible work that you do.
Actually, if they want to see it in action, they can go and watch the podcast because it's a video podcast. If they go to my website, unblockresults.com/podcast, they'll get to see all the different episodes of my EFT Breakthroughs, my podcast. And they can watch the tapping happen with real people with real issues. And if they want to try it for themselves, they can go to unblockresults.com/results and get my procrastination breakthrough kit, which is a couple of videos that can tap along with whenever they find themselves procrastinating, not reaching out for that agent or not finishing that chapter or whatever it is. Whenever they're feeling stuck, that can sort of lower the resistance to taking action. So that might be something they'll want to go in and get.
Perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes. And that's a great offer to go in and get that kit because, don't we all procrastinate? I don't know anybody who doesn't procrastinate.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, Nancy, as you know, always have our experts leave our listeners with a golden nugget. What's yours?
I think what I would really like everyone to take away from this is if there's something that you're not doing or you feel like you're sabotaging yourself with it and you're somehow getting in the way of finishing your book or reaching out for an agent or getting on stages, I'm going to beg you not to get mad at yourself. It's not somehow a fault or a personality trait or something like that. What it is your subconscious keeping you safe. Now, it's based on old information. It's outdated. But it is simply trying to do what's going to keep you alive and protected. Instead of getting mad, get curious. Some part of you is trying to protect you. Let's listen to that. So one of the techniques you might try that I use with clients sometimes is, let's say you're procrastinating writing, and it's a mystery to you why. So you set aside the time to write. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to write from 2 to 4. And you go to do that. And here's this old trick. You will either write or you will do nothing at all. Those are the only two options. I add a little piece. If you're not writing, notice what's coming up. There might be a thought like, no one's ever going to read this, or who am I to get out there with this? It might be a physical reaction. There's like this tightening in the pit of your stomach, for example. And you might want to follow that back. Well, where do I remember feeling that from in the past? That can be a clue. It could even be just an emotional reaction. You might find tears coming up. If you can sit with it, sometimes you can find where that comes from. And knowing where it comes from is a great step to releasing it. Obviously, with tapping would be my way to do it, but simply understanding it might take away some of the sting, and that can allow you to move forward. But never get mad at yourself because you were just doing the best you could with what you had.
Yeah, I think that's such an important lesson is you often think, there is something wrong with us. I can't do what somebody else is doing. And it's so easy for them to do it. Beautiful lesson. Nancy, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And listeners, go and listen to this a couple more times because there's some dynamite information that Nancy shared with us. Then, if you know that your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's you and I jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways to ramp up those sales because you've invested a whole lot of time, money, and energy, and it's time you got the results you were hoping for. So go to bookmarketingbrainstorm.com to schedule your free call. And in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparks some ideas you can use to sell more books. Until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.